Theresa May has been warned that EU leaders might not agree to a Brexit delay tomorrow if she arrives at a key summit in Brussels without a deal agreed by MPs. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker suggested that an emergency summit might be needed next week, potentially just hours before Brexit Day, for an extension to Article 50 to be approved. He said that Mrs. May must bring approval of the negotiated deal and she must bring clear ideas on timing to the European Council in Brussels tomorrow or face a humiliating rejection. Mr. Juncker told German broadcaster Deutschlandfunk that the remaining 27 member states' hands were tied until the political indecision in London was resolved. My impression is that this week at the European Council there will be no decision, but that we will probably have to meet again next week, because Mrs. May doesn't have agreement to anything, either in her cabinet or in Parliament, Mr. Juncker added. As long as we don't know what Britain could say yes to, we can't reach a decision. Asked about indications from Downing Street that Mrs. May will request a short extension, Mr. Juncker told DRF, those months would have to produce, as an end result, an agreement from the British Parliament to the agreement text which is before them. If that doesn't happen, and if Great Britain does not leave at the end of March, then we are, I am sorry to say, in the hands of God. And I think even God sometimes reaches a limit to his patience. If EU leaders did not grant an extension tomorrow, it would take the UK perilously close to the March 29 Brexit day and we would still by default leave without a deal unless a deal or an extension was agreed. It raises the possibility that a third meaningful vote early next week could be key to winning a Brexit delay from the EU. In the same interview, Mr. Juncker insisted that the deal negotiated over 2 years with Brussels was the remaining member states' final offer. Nothing more can be done. We've reached the end of the road, he said. If other scenarios are being discussed, we'd need a new road. His interview was the latest attempt by the EU to ramp up the pressure on Mrs. May ahead of Thursday's summit in Brussels. Mrs. May abandoned her plan to ask the EU for a 9-month Brexit delay or longer after furious Brexiter cabinet ministers threatened to quit and told her the Tory party would only accept a wait until June. The Brexit delay has split her cabinet, with outraged Remainers saying today it was Mrs. May's most craven surrender to the hardliners yet because it substantially increases the risk of no deal. Brexiter Andrea Leadsom, who yesterday blasted ministers for failing to deliver Brexit and hinted she could resign, told LBC today, "I'm quite sure it will only be a short extension. It's absolutely essential we're out of the EU before the European elections." She also said John Bercow's ruling to prevent a third vote on Mrs. May's deal is subordinate to the views of Parliament and said, he needs to remain impartial. "I've had some questions about it. Britain is due to leave the EU next Friday, March 29. But after failing to get her deal through Parliament last week, the Prime Minister will tomorrow ask the EU to extend the deadline at a Brussels summit.